The value of the brick is not determined with reference to any other currency. It's determined with reference to gold by weight of gold. Now, and I don't know the weight, they'll pick one, but again, it doesn't matter because it's not even it's math, it's logic. And by the way, now we're back to Aristotle's transitive law. This is the key. This unlocks the whole thing, because Aristotle said, if A equals B equals C, then A equals C. The B can drop out. It's not even arithmetic. It's logic. Okay, so what happens when you let Saudi Arabia into the BRICS, given the other members? You have two of the three largest oil producers in the world, Russia and Saudi Arabia. You have two of the three largest nuclear arsenals in the world, Russia and China. You have, throwing India in, and some others, you have about 50% of global population, 54% of global GDP using purchasing power parity. You can debate the method, but just if you do purchasing power parity, you get over half of GDP.
Hello and welcome to Crypto Street, where we bring you the latest and most intriguing stories. Now, let's begin our enlightening discussion with Jim Rickards.
Okay, so what happens when you let Saudi Arabia into the BRICS, given the other members? You have two of the three largest oil producers in the world, Russia and Saudi Arabia. You have two of the three largest nuclear arsenals in the world, Russia and China. You have, throwing India in, and some others, you have about 50% of global population, 54% of global GDP using purchasing power parity. You can debate the method, but just if you do purchasing power parity, you get over half of GDP, 30% of the global landmass. I could go on and on. My point is that I learned development economics in the 1970s. We had something called the third world. It was Russia or, Soviet Union and the US. And then there was the third world. And all you knew about them was they were poor and, you had to get them off the runway. We actually had the runway theory of how you grow. Turned out to be wrong, but that's what we learned. Well, this is not the old third world. These are not basket cases. These are many of the biggest economies in the world that collectively have enormous power, natural resources, gold reserves, landmass, population, military. And again, I could go down the list, but this is a block that is as powerful in its own way by a lot of these metrics as the collective West, which I would call, US, Canada, Western Europe, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and a few others. So that's who this group is. Now there are a couple other groups that may join forces with the BRICS. There's something called the Eurasian Economic Union. Everyone's like, what the heck is that? Well, the EEU was Putin's answer. This has been around for a long time. This goes back to the early 2000s. This was Putin's answer to the EU. So, well, you got the EU, we got the EEU. Now it's Russia and some Central Asian republics, some Belarus and Tajikistan. I'm not saying this is France, Germany, and Italy, but it is a group that have reduced tariffs and improved trade between themselves. And there's another powerful group called the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, led by China. And these are mostly Central Asian republics, including Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan and some others. But they're all talking to each other. Now, what's the common denominator? Well, it's basically Russia and China. China's a member of two. Russia's the only country in the world that's a member of all three. So through pretty simple inference, you can say, hey, Russia and China are running the show. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. And I tell people, I said, if you want to understand this, it took me a long time to figure this out. I mean, I was just like slaving over it. But I said, if you want to understand this, you have to stop thinking like an American. You have to start thinking like a Russian. This is the kind of thing that pretty much only Russia could come up with. So what is the brick? And by the way, I don't know if they're going to call it a brick. I'm saying brick for convenience. It doesn't matter what they call it, but I just call it a brick for the time being. But they'll come up with a name. Who knows? The value of the brick is not determined with reference to any other currency. It's determined with reference to gold by weight of gold. Now, and I don't know the weight, they'll pick one, but again, it doesn't matter because it's not even it's math, it's logic. And by the way, now we're back to Aristotle's transitive law. This is the key. This unlocks the whole thing, because Aristotle said, if A equals B equals C, then A equals C. The B can drop out. It's not even arithmetic. It's logic.
Don't forget to join us as we explore the unfolding events. Now let's look at the latest news in the economy. Then we turn back to Jim Rickards. US dollar to remain major global currency. South Africa's BRICS. Sherpa says, BRICS plans to discuss trade in national currencies at its summit, but de-dollarization is not on the agenda, South Africa's BRICS Sherpa stated. The talks in Johannesburg next week will also focus on the expansion of the bloc of emerging economies, and the diplomat doesn't see this as a challenge to any other organization. Robert Kiyosaki predicts Bitcoin rising to $1 million, gold $75K, and silver $60K if world economy crashes.
They're going to announce it. It will be introduced in stages. It will take a while to, but the big thing is the thing I mentioned, which is the definition will be by weight of gold. Now, by the way, and I don't want to take too much time on this, this process is an exact duplication of the process that John Maynard Keynes went through at Bretton Woods. And he was ultimately unsuccessful. He was overruled by the United States and Harry Dexter White, who was the U.S. delegate, who turned out to be a Stalinist agent. We found that out later. But what Keynes wanted, and I'm sure you know this, he wanted world money. He wanted the Bancor. He didn't like the idea. He wasn't against gold, not at all. But he was against the idea that somehow only the dollar would be tied to gold and everybody else would be tied to the dollar. That meant you had to go to the U.S. and via the IMF and say, "Mother, may I?" Devalue or whatever, because the U.S. was in charge. Keynes said, let's have one currency unit, a world money. He called it the Bancor. And the other thing he did, when he started, I've read all his papers, he started his research with a commodity basket. I said, well, all right, so what's the Bancor worth? Same problem the BRICS are facing. What's the Bancor worth? He said, well, you could have so many barrels of oil, so many bushels of wheat, so many tons of copper, et cetera, through this commodity basket. And he very quickly discovered that commodities are not quite as generic or homogeneous as people believe. They're oil, yeah, but there's 72 grades of oil around the world based on sulfur content, viscosity, transportation costs. They're not all the same. So through a process of elimination, he just said, well, why don't we just use gold? And gold's easy. It's not that it's pretty and shiny, but it's an element. It's not even a molecule. It's an atomic number 79. It's either gold or it isn't. There's no debate about what gold is. And it serves the same purpose, which is it gives you an anchor.
Why is Bitcoin price down today? Let's take a quick look. Bitcoin price is down today as the crypto market reacts to the SEC's delay on approving or denying the recent ETF applications, and traders wait for the FOMC minutes from Jerome Powell. Bitcoin's market structure had been recovering since the start of 2023, but its recent price action has turned the market structure bearish and is now considered to be contracting, according to the Capriol Bitcoin Macro Index. That wraps up today's crypto news highlights. Stay tuned for more updates, insights, and analysis from the world of cryptocurrencies. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content.